Hi, Sally. Welcome to this podcast, Mel, Gabby and Friends. Nice to see you again.
And you too. Thank you for having me.
Well, it was really interesting. We met a few months ago and I was really intrigued by the work that you do, homologist, and wanted to find out more. And I thought it's probably something a lot of the people I come into contact with, I'm not sure if they've heard of or know. So what I thought would be really great is to spend some time sort of looking at what a homologist is, your journey and what some of that's involved. And I will put your contact details in the podcast so that if people want to contact you, find out more or access your services, they'll be able to do so. So tell me more about what a homologist is.
Thank you. The homologist is a made-up word, but actually it comes from homology, which means the same or similar. So we have the home and we have the ologist, and the ologist is the expert. So I like to call myself the expert in your home. And what I do is really understand the property, the building and you and how you live in it. So if people don't understand if they want to stay in their homes, maybe improve and future-proof it, or they want to sell and move on, then I can help them make that decision and give them the choices of what's going to be best for them at the right time for them.
So I believe you've been doing this a long time. How did you get into doing that?
So yes, I've been in property since 1985. So this is me. I am here with my wisdom and wrinkles. So yeah, agency work. I did estate agency, letting agency, and worked for a company with home search. So I was looking for property to buy and to rent. And then in 1999, took the leap of faith and thought I can do this myself. And so I literally just stopped, bought a computer, had a mobile phone, bought a second-hand car, and off I went. And connected with everybody that I'd met along the way since 1985, and was recommended by people that I worked with an agency, and that started the interest in how I can help people, because a lot of people who are looking to move or not don't have any representation. So if you're a vendor, the estate agent looks after you, and if you're a landlord, the letting agent looks after you, but nobody looks after you if you're a purchaser or a tenant. And so I found that was really my calling to, because I understand what they're looking for, to tap into that and to literally hold their hands all the way through the process.
Wow. So what might that involve, and is it different with different people?
Oh gosh, yes, because we're all individual, Mel, aren't we? Your style may be not my style, and that's fantastic, because that's how we are as personalities. But I might not want to buy your style, and similarly, you may not like how I am. So the dealing with different people and different requirements and different understanding of their lifestyle allows me to be creative, and also use my intuition of how they think they might be to actually how they are and they live themselves. So dealing with people is about going into their home, feeling it, sensing how they are. I'm very sensory, so I will be listening to whatever's going outside on the street, listening to the neighbours, smelling and having that aroma and what's around, because if there's a chicken farm next door or a garage, you'll understand that and feel that. I'm also very aware of how things look and how they present, because I'm impartial. I don't live in your house with you, so I'm looking at it from the outside in, from how other people might look at it. So I generally deal with what's in the house. It might be placement of furniture, it might be removing things. It's definitely cleaning and repairing and maintaining your home, because I really, really, really believe that the well-being of your home influences and also impacts your well-being in your home. So if you're looking after your building, your property, because that's protecting you, then it will look after you. So everybody has a different story. I deal with everybody independently and individually. However, I have a signature approach of how I deal with everybody, which is very sensory.
It's interesting what you say, actually, because if we sort of look at psychology and supporting people with their well-being, as you say, the environmental factors can really influence how someone functions, and that can be clutter, it can be whether you live near a mass and you're super sensitive, and more people are finding that now, or like you say, the noises and how it can disrupt your capacity to function. And I heard you mention that sometimes it's about helping people, and it might be that they choose to stay in the house. So is it that people can sort of have this idea that they're looking for something in a particular way and putting their focus elsewhere, that actually when you help unpick things with them, it helps them see somehow what's already there, how they can improve that, and don't have to take the big step of moving?
Absolutely. There are a lot of people, Mel, who don't know whether they can stay or whether they should move. And my role really is to identify those areas of opportunity for them, because, you know, our homes are our greatest investment. We don't buy them from the change we find at the back of the sofa. This is a very considered decision that we make, and it's emotional and financial. So if we can, and if you like the home and you're just moving for space, light and storage, then there are ways that you could perhaps, and I won't know until I get there, extend, improve, change, maybe move walls or windows to create that for yourself in your home. And so until I get there, my value's in my visit in that respect, because until I stand there and say, what is it that you're looking to move and why, then maybe we can change those. So I can bring in architects, structural engineers, interior designers, those people in my team that I can bring in with me to give their expert advice, to give the homeowner choices. And it means that having choice is freedom. It means that you don't have to move. You could do this. There will be a cost. It will be investing in your future, investing in your home. But if you're there for the next 3, 5, 10 years, you would have enjoyed that, and you would have realized that. And maybe then you were right size. I don't like to call it downsizing or upscaling. I like to call it right sizing, because we buy our homes for a particular reason. And that reason may have changed with life. You know, life takes on all different forms, doesn't it? You might get married or divorced, you might have children, you might have dogs, you might have multi-generational living. So whatever happens with your life, your home will contain it for that reason, for that time. So when it becomes to that time that you need to maybe change things or something in your house or your life, then that's the time really to take some expert advice. Does that make sense?
Yeah, perfect sense. It's interesting as well, because if you're, I guess, like the intermediary, but you're hand holding, there's a level of emotional, psychological support in that as well, isn't there? And when I've watched programs on the TV, you know, a couple can be looking to move somewhere and they've got very different ideas about what they're looking for, or one is resistant to it and the other one wants to do it. And so all of those either resistances or emotions or ideas or fears must also play a part in the process.
And we have that head and heart conversation about moving home, and on a lot of big decisions, understandably. So I bring the harmony and the balance to that, and there's always a compromise. You know, we are not perfect, nothing's perfect, but it's about having what's best for us at that time and for both parties. So I do become the marriage counsellor, I do become the sounding board, I do become the divorce coach, I do become the person that everyone can talk to, seek advice, bounce ideas from. It's safe, it's a very safe environment, it stays with me. I've got very large shoulders for a reason, and this is part of having a great relationship with clients who you're going to take or be part of their journey and help them all the way through, so that when they reach their end goal, whatever that might be, whether it's their house they're improving, or they move, I can help them with all of that and more. And so it becomes the head talking with the heart. So I'm the harmony to find your right space in your house, and then there's the happiness. So it's the 580s of the moving or not moving process.
So how much do you see, and it's probably changed over time, that people's perceptions of what they think they want and where they're heading towards, actually when they spend time with you exploring that on those different levels, discover that actually it's quite different in terms of what's emerging?
It happens a lot, and more than you can imagine. And I can talk about my own family, my parents and my sister, for example. My dad's a surveyor, so I've been around buildings all my life, which has also helped me in a lot of areas of my business. And we moved from a 2-bedroom house, and he wanted a 4-bedroom modern home because he was busy at work, and we needed just to have something simple. What he bought was a 16th century thatched cottage on the main road behind a bus stop opposite a pub, which is not what the plan was. He did it because there was potential, and we lived there very happily, and we had a great time. But that wasn't the plan. So what he thought and what we actually bought were very different. And just recently, my sister, she lives in Devon with her family, and they wanted to be near their youngest son, be about 15 miles, 15 minutes drive away, because they were having their first child. My sister was having their first grandchild. And, do you want to live that close to your family? Is that fair? And they both had a very, very, very simple idea of what they wanted. So I responded to that, did all the research, but kept saying, if you went the other side of Devon and you did that, we don't want to go that. It was very categorical. And my house rule is to be open-minded. Well, what we bought was a 2-acre plot of land and a stainless steel shed. Completely different. So they're going to build their own, which is fantastic. But that is the whole premise of thinking about moving. What do you think you want, and what you actually end up with can be completely different. And there are lots of other instances, but these are just my family, so I can talk about them. But it happened, and it's true. And we laugh about it, because again, you could go into a shop and want to buy a particular item of clothing and come out with something different, because actually the person in the shop knows your body shape. They can see what you look like and would frame you. So I think this happens a lot in life, Mel, and I'm sure in your business as well. When you talk to people, what you think might be, or they think might be something they want to talk about, you come out with a completely different result or an outcome because of what you uncover. And I call it uncovering to discover.
Yeah, oh, definitely. And one of the services I was running, we were getting on average 1,000 referrals a year, wow. Children and families. And we always knew as clinical staff that the presenting problem or concern was only either a snapshot or wasn't actually what the problem was. But people don't always have the language to describe what's going on. We lead busy lives, so we need to deal with superficialities. It's the way the brain works, it's the way that we operate. But like what you said, when it comes to either in our service case, it comes to a crisis or chaos, and people then look for somebody to help them sort that out, or it comes to a stage in your life where you want to make a big transition and change, and don't necessarily realize that your own values and beliefs have changed, and your own style has changed even. and that sometimes even just changing a few items within the house and getting rid of, I mean, I always had a belief that, you know, I only bring things into the house if they're given to me and I don't like them, I give them away. You know, if they're associated with any particular memory that I don't want to keep, that goes away too, because I know the energetics. Everything has an energy, and that energy influences your own energy field, and it's important to stay as buoyant, as happy, or as peaceful as possible, or as focused if you're working. And every aspect, I mean, my desk can be chaotic from time to time, but there is order in my chaos as well to some degree. So yeah, people are fascinating, and it is fascinating to come into contact with people when they're at, especially it's a stage of transition, isn't it? You know, and you know, a lot of my work was around transition. So it's like, what is it that you're working with at the beginning in the journey and then towards the end?
So change is something that I'm very mindful of, and I also have a phrase to say that choose change before change chooses you.
Yeah.
Especially in this last couple of years, Mother Nature gave us COVID. We all had to adapt or not. It was our choice. But a lot of people were put into situations of which they weren't in control. And so being in control allows you a choice, good, bad, or indifferent. And not having that control, or not having that control of the change that you need to be in, is detrimental to your health and well-being. So I'm a great believer in, and especially in these times of economic crisis and just trying to pay the bills, and with the mortgage rate going up, if you can't afford it and you need to make a change, but it doesn't have to be forever, it can be just for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Give yourself that chance to choose that change in your mind, to suit you, before you can't afford the bills, things happen that are not good in your life, then your health goes down, your well-being is down, your mental stability is down. And I'm just very concerned that we will see that if people don't take that brave leap of faith, or just one step to make a change in their lives. And that's what I'm trying to educate people to do. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be forever. It just might be for now. And so, again, part of my service in educating people, and there are a lot of people on the market that haven't sold for a long time, and I can see why they haven't sold just on their photographs online, but being invited to their home to understand, do you really want to move? Because some people don't. And again, it's bringing that harmony between that head and heart, and understanding if they don't want to move, what can we do to help improve the house? So there's that conversation. Also, if you do want to move, there are some things that we can do, small, affordable differences. Move the chair, put the toilet seat down, take all the stuff off the work surface, just simple things. And I'm only mentioning a couple of things that come to my mind immediately, but there are, I can go in and help you room by room, completely change the impression of it, which transforms how the buyers will potentially see it. And that's what we want to do. You need to change that flow. You need to change how people see it, because if it's been on the market for 5 weeks, it's old already. So it doesn't take a lot, and it's not expensive, but it just means a considered time to do that. And it's a plan. But then you're changing the environment, you're changing how you see it, you're changing how other people see it. And therefore that helps the momentum.
Yeah, it's interesting because you're talking on so many sort of different levels, really, of you know, in psychology they talk about the change cycle, and as you said, sometimes, and we talk about in the tarot as well, that sometimes you can get nudges or minor urges and you ignore them, and whether that is something that is happening in a relationship, in work, in where you live, You can get those nudges, and it can get to the point where the crescendo just happens anyway, and you end up with the Tower card and change is forced. But if you pay attention to the signs, signals, and flags, whether they're red or green, going up as to move or not. But one thing I've noticed, and I think we talked about this when we were at the festival a couple of weeks ago, that before COVID, people's lives were however they had been living for that amount of time. COVID comes along and people were either forced to live in a space for long periods of time with their family, and I don't know how families did it in many ways. Some people made rapid moves and just went with the idea quite quickly. But I'd also noticed, and it's come through in a lot of the research, that a lot of that sort of forced change and feeling out of control also was quite traumatic for a lot of people. And even though people started to get out and about last year, we've still got, and I was talking about this with a colleague yesterday, some psychological hangover of what's happened since COVID. So we've got so many different fear factors that are going on at the moment in terms of the environment, the cost of living, the house prices, the mortgages, the state of the economy, all of these things that we're exposed to can overwhelm somebody, and they can end up quite stuck. And trauma can get stuck in the body, and people can get stuck, and they don't realize sometimes just by going to see somebody, because I don't think it always matters who the person is that you start talking to, as long as you start talking about what it is that you're thinking, whether or not you're choosing to make a decision or not. But you're right, if people believe that they've got no control, and it's one of the key factors in depression, if you've got a sense of, there's a lot of things you can't control, but you can control whether you get out of bed or not. You can control whether you make a cup of tea or not. You can control whether you paint the wall or not. You know, there are things that we can control, but it's facilitating that conversation that enables people to get unstuck, isn't it?
Yes, and that's brave for someone to do that. It's brave and courageous for someone to say, help. I mean, we're of an age where you get on with it, you deal with it, you sort it out. And to ask for help was not really done. And I think COVID has proved to all of us that actually we're not an island. We do need to be together, and it's easier to work together. And I think my role my purpose, I think, in all of this is about giving you the right choices so that you can make the right decisions for you at that time. And the time is now for everybody, whether it's to make a cup of tea or to go to work or to join a group. Whatever it is to take action, and with that action, you're moving forward, whether it's you have to take a diversion. It may not be straight A to B, it might be a little wiggle, and that takes all different forms. So I think for me, my purpose and my mission here is to say to homeowners and to vendors, there's help out there with people who have been in here and done it for a very, very, very long time.
Yeah.
And you don't have to take my advice, but if you have the time and you can listen to some impartial, different perspective, there are always lots of different alternatives. And my power is presenting options with effective results. It's about coming at it with different eyes, for different reasons, and I always share those reasons. Then you have the information to do as you will. But if you don't have that information, you can't make an informed decision. And your home is your protection, it's your warmth, it's your security. It should be where you are at peace, and your sanity and your sanctuary. And the well-being part of that allows you to be your own self, making the decisions for you within your control. That was
I think Yeah, but you've raised an interesting point as well, is I think a lot of people can get stuck not moving forward and calling somebody like yourself because they think they have to do this or that. They make a decision, they think they have to propel towards that and don't realize they can actually change their mind. And it was something I discovered years ago about myself. It was almost like I'd get stuck in indecision and not realize that you can start a process, go through the process, gather more information, feel that out, talk it out, and then it may be that you're tweaking it and you're still moving in the same direction, or you put your foot on the brake again and you pause and you say, right, okay, that's okay for now. And it's something that I also say to clients, you know, sometimes there's only so far you can go. You've got to do all the thinking, all the research, integrate it, sit on it, process it. Some people are fast movers. You know, if we looked at this astrologically, we might say an Aries will just go, right, I've got this idea, I'm going to run ahead with it. And a Taurus like me will plod along and gather some more and think and reflect and think and reflect. And it's quite difficult if you've got those different sort of personalities within a family system, for example, because people will be running at different rates and manage fear and control differently. So I guess in some families, you've also got to be almost like a systemic therapist managing the dynamics between those interactions and the desired goal, keeping them focused at all times.
Yes, absolutely. And being able to see it from the outside, because I'm not living with you, I'm not living in your home, and whatever you do, to see, to come from it completely fresh,
Yeah.
enables me to suggest and to make alternative suggestions, because I can see it in a presentation way, whereas you're living in it, you're living your life.
Yeah.
And when I see a lot of people at the moment, a lot of vendors are calling me because they've been on the market for more than 5 weeks. I ask the children what they think, because you'll know children tell the truth, rightly, good, bad, or indifferent. And you know, why do you like the house? What's your favorite part of it? Where would you want to? What would you like to do? And sometimes the parents haven't heard them.
Yeah.
And I'm not a mother, but what I like to do is to involve the different ages and the personalities within the house, because their energy is going to be very different from mum and dad, who are working hard, they're keeping the house maintained, they're putting food in the fridge, they're making sure the kids are fed and watered and go to school or university or whatever they're doing. They have a completely different job and jobs to the children. So to see it from their viewpoint enables me, and also for them to voice it enables the parents sometimes to go, oh, maybe we could do this, and it changes their perception. But it's a big jigsaw, Mel. It's a big jigsaw of emotions, and it's unraveling what's important to everybody. And once you've got that decision to stay or to move, then let's take that on board. And as I said before, it doesn't have to be a straight line, it can be a wiggly one, and that's okay too.
Yeah, I like what you said though about involving the children, because I think so many of us sort of overlook the experience that children have with either the concept of change happening or losing their favorite place, or you know, or being excited about where they're going, and but also, you know, how are their needs going to be met, and what, you know, what do they want in terms of participating in that. And that is a really important process. But what I was also thinking was, you know, over the decades that you've been doing this, have people's ideas about living and what they're looking for changed much?
Yeah. Yes. So many years ago, back in the 80s and 90s, it was, you know, money was cheap. You know, I remember paying, as a 20-year-old, 16.5% on my mortgage. Couldn't do it now, but we did it then, and we just got on with it. so I think at the beginning of my experience in the industry was very much, let's get the maximum we can. Everyone was really multiplying their salaries to get the biggest property you can, because we are brought up with your home is your castle, right? And you should buy as soon as you can, and because that is where your investment is, and it's so true. However, over the years, and having the ability to move very easily all around the world, people moved countries. England accepted other cultures, and other cultures, especially Europeans, rent their property because they don't have that, you know, maintaining. They secure a price and they can stay there or they can move, and it gives you flexibility, jobs, lifestyle, human connections, relationships, work, family, health. It allows you to have that freedom of choice of moving. I found a lot of people wanted to rent, try somewhere to live first and then buy, because I would always recommend that if you could. But the changes of house doesn't have to be that big castle that we're all led to believe. Don't get me wrong, I think it's still a great investment, and I think if you can and afford it, you should. But I do believe that try somewhere else, go and experience other countries, do rent, do explore, do have that opportunity of work, go to places that you can and experience different lives, because as and when you do that, you may gravitate back to the UK and then settle and then have all those life experiences to then enjoy your home and lifestyle. With now COVID, and Mother Nature was definitely pushing us towards outside space, which we all definitely need. A lot of people continue to come out of London, but at a faster rate, and find properties. A lot of them rented, and they rented for a very long time. They secured a long period of time to rent, so they could gather themselves. They were very wise. They gathered themselves, ran the course of the mortgage and the financial crisis and what was happening, and the uncertainty that we all were put in. And now they're making changes. Now they're putting down roots. So we've gone from, I believe, and I've seen, we've got to get the biggest house wherever it is and live there, to not to be able to afford it, to having flexibility of people moving in and out of the UK and the world, to now let's right size, let's have what we can afford in the size that we can afford, so that we can still have our investment, we can still live and enjoy life and social and be and travel if that's what you want to do. But also we don't have all the stuff, and stuff is a dreadful word, possessions or things that we keep or collect, you know, wherever you traveled, all the photographs, now everything you can put online, but physical things that you've got memories of that people want to keep. Really important, but do we use them? A lot of older people that I'm finding now who are going into who are making their last purchase into a retirement village or into a nursing home or a care home, and that's that last move, that autumn move. They're going generally from a very large property to a smaller property. What do they do with their life's memories in ornaments or furniture or artifacts? And that is an interesting conversation they're having with families. Do we keep it? Is it useful? Does it serve us? And that's part of that emotion of moving. And that right sizing, I think, would be healthy for everyone to do yearly. Do we need this? You know, is it broken? Do we can you get it repaired? Do we need it? Does it serve us? Do I love it? And have less things, less to dust, less to clean. we're holding on to a lot of things. I think that, again, maybe we're of an age, and certainly our parents' generations of an age where they had nothing, so they keep things. I understand that. But size and space and storage may be limited on wherever that place, that next home will be. So I'm very aware of that, to be able to deal with that in a empathic and compassionate way. I've moved people, Mel, who've still got stuff in storage, possessions in storage, haven't seen them for 10 years.
Yeah.
We need it then, do we? Why are we spending money in a place where we don't have things that bring us joy? And that transition of letting it go, accepting and letting it go, is also part of that emotion of leaving a home or going into a new home and having a new adventure. So emotions run really high. So being able to listen to them, be empathic to them, but also ask the question, does it serve you? Does it bring you joy? In a simple form, for people who are in it or around it or responding to it, is very key for my signature approach. I hope that answers. Sorry, that was a long.
Well, I think, again, you're talking about stages of life, and towards the latter stage of life, people's need of what they want from where they live is certainly different than if you're buying a house for the first time. And like you say, psychologically, people hold on to things and are attached to them, and part of that letting go, or the process of that, is, like you say, putting it in storage for a long time. I think now what I'm noticing as well, there's a lot more ads on TV for these companies where you can sell your things or give it away to somebody that might enjoy it, and it's run its course with you. But huge shifts and change, and it's all the things that occur in that process of transition of the joy, the excitement, the sadness, the loss, the memories, and how you even take, but I've taken loads of pictures inside the house, because if I move somewhere else, I want to remember sort of what the inside of this house might look like, but I might not necessarily bring all the belongings with me. But it's part of how you keep the memories alive, or set yourself up slightly differently if you go somewhere else. I mean, I quite like clean, very minimal looks, me, but don't achieve it that often, because just of the space I live in, I can't shove things in cupboards and push them to one side. It's there, and I'm a visual worker, so I like to, it's how I get reminded of what I'm doing. So the cycle of change and the processes.
Sorry, I interrupted you. I do apologize. I think you brought up a comment then, which I've come across a lot more recently, but I've always felt, is that when your agents, when they sell a house, will have photographs of the exterior and the interior and the garden. I believe, and it's my own humble opinion, that if you're looking to buy a house, you will generally know the area in which you want to buy, and it's usually 4 to 6 miles from where you live already. Usually. You'll know the sort of style of property you're looking for, generally. So if it was me, I'd want the front door of the house, the price, we have to have the energy performance certificate, the EPC, and a floor plan, because a floor plan will show you where the structural walls are. The interior of the property is subjective. Colours, furniture, fixtures, fittings are entirely my choice. So do you need to see that, to see how I live, to show you how you might like my house? Personally, I don't think so. And recently an agent had a property that the vendor said, don't want my interiors of my house online. caused a bit of consternation because, well, that's not how we do things. And I said, it'll be fine. You're the agent, you can sell this because of the potential. And it's a floor plan. We all like a floor plan. We draw over it. We can put the bed here. We can put the table there. First viewing, the owner accepted the offer. Now,
Yeah.
it proves to me that I've been saying for many, many years that less is more. People, if they know where they really want to be, will move that short space of time, short period of short period of oh my goodness, a short away.
Space of time.
Thank you, distance away, and generally know what they're looking for to move in, because it might be for schools, it might be for work, it might be for catchment area, you know, for many reasons. But I believe that having a floor plan and a good agent, understanding and asking the right questions and qualifying you before you go to visit a property works really well. Now, when I'm home searching and finding that next home for someone, I don't need to look at the inside. I've got a floor plan. I know exactly what my clients are looking for because I've had that 100 questions I ask them, and I know them inside out. And to make that decision of whether I choose to see your house or not isn't about the photographs online. It's about what I can achieve and where the compass point is, where the orientation is, where it sits, the environment, and how it's going to suit my client. So having you taking photographs of the inside of your house, I think is really interesting to note, because a lot of people move. Do they want the same or similar homology, or do they want something completely different? Now, I know a lot of people who are going from that last phase of their life, that last purchase, have lived with their possessions for 40 years or more and want something completely different.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good point you raise, actually, because I was looking at renting a property last year, and the floor plan was the only thing I really looked at, because I wanted to know what space I was working with, and then if I was going to be, having a home office, whether that was in the living room or a separate room, where that space was, because of how I like the light to come in when I'm working, what I like to see if I'm sat at home all day working. So I think in the past when I was renting, I certainly did, because this was part of the 80s style in a lot of people's homes, was if someone's got really busy wallpaper, but people tend not to have that now. And I did live in a place once where it was just disturbing most of the time, but I had to get a property quick. It was near Heathrow. I was working in hotels at the time, and that, it served a basic purpose, but it wasn't something to live in a long time because it was too busy. And, and again, that's just that reference to the psychological aspect of everything that we experience. And I don't think people don't necessarily realize, like what we said earlier when we started talking, how all of these things, people, our families, tensions, what's going on for people, our houses, the food that we eat, the company that we keep, everything have influenced the energy and the energy exchange that we have. So before we sort of come to an end in terms of looking at homology, what are the kind of tips if people want to stay in their property but would like to hire you to help them think through either how they manage what they've collected over the years, or their chaos, or get some bright ideas? Because if you're like me, it's not a skill. I've got lots of skills, but deciding how something looks and how fabrics go together is not mine. So have you any sort of tips that people could try in their own spaces to see what that's like for them?
Yeah, the first thing would be to how many possessions do you have, and does it look cluttered? Because if you, or to even move your sofa or your chair or your table into a different space in the room that you have, that changes a lot of things. So I would move furniture. I change furniture and things probably every season, because every season you tend to, when you live in a home, use different spaces for different reasons. So I tend to move things about. I like change, and it just creates that flow. So if you're at home, look at the space that you have. Do you use every single space in your home, or do you have that room or that cupboard that you don't open? Now, if you don't open that room or cupboard, that could be because it feels cold, or it doesn't feel like you want to spend time there. Then I can certainly help with that. It could be that we could release the energies there, and then you use that space. Because generally what happens if you've got a room, or especially a room or two rooms that are above each other, and you don't use them, and you shut the door and you put everything in there, and you don't use them because it doesn't feel right, or it just feels a bit cold, and you're thinking of moving because you've got no space, then we can change that space for you so you actually use the rooms. So that would be what I'd be looking at first. Can you use and live with less, especially with the planet and living without plastics in our life? And do we need 14 products to clean our house? No.
Or 2 sets of tableware. That's my mother-in-law's would have. Yeah.
Yes. And it's just in case. We all come from our generations before us who had nothing. We'll keep it just in case. We don't necessarily live. We are unfortunately live in a throwaway society, and I've still got things just in case in the garage, but it's not in my house, my living space. So that's what I'll be doing first. Can you live with less? Can you look at the space that you've got, and do you use every single part? And if you don't, I'm very happy to come and have a conversation with you about that.
What about colour then? What do you, because every time we meet, you're always vibrantly dressed and use colour really well. So do you play around with colour with clients? And what do you notice when they may be attracted to certain colours or take on different colours? What's your view on colour?
I love colour, and I think colour is there to enhance you and your energy, whether that's to subdue it to make it calm so that you can work in, or to liven it so that you're busy. So kitchens, don't ever put red in a kitchen, because kitchen's that fireplace where you've got fire already and it's quite a busy energy. A lot of accents are red, so kettles, toasters, oven gloves, for example. I don't generally like to put a lot of red in the kitchen because it's that danger. A good your personality, your color tone and everything else, your skin tone does make a difference in how you be. Colors of muted greens in living room enable you to be more calm, more relaxed, more harmonious. I love an accent color on a wall to give you that pop, so that you can again enhance whichever the energy you need to be in every room. A lot of people like the white and then put furniture of color, which is great. Muted tones, chaos of tones I like too. But if you're wanting to have that, a lot of people have had that grey and that 50 shades of grey over the years. Loving the burnt oranges, the lime greens, the purples, the cobalt blues, all those that really make it stand out, work very well. But if there's too much colour, your brain gets a bit, can't deal with it. And again, that's part of the energy of that house and that well-being. Is it the right? And there are tones of colours to use. And I'm not an interior designer. I can give you a broad spectrum, but I bring in one of my team to be specific on that. I can give you accents of colour for throws, cushions, accessories, and I will go and buy those enhancements to help you. But colour is really important in life. Mother Nature is full of colour. We live in our gardens full of colour. So sometimes it's going to work for some people, Mel, sometimes it's not. And it will depend on their energy and their personality, and what needs to be amplified or subdued.
Yeah.
Again, that bringing that homologist in, the same or similar, that homologist side of the elements of all of that, it's almost like I'm an emergency service. Do you stay or do you sell?
Mm.
Uncertainty, it's that unknown. Well, we can bring that to you. We can give you those choices to let you know. And the emergency services, that's a red thing, isn't it? That's a danger. What do I do? Do I stay? Do I sell?
Yeah. So it sounds as though clients can contact you and have an initial consultation to share ideas.
Absolutely. I
And
have a
then,
45-minute free consultation.
right, okay. And then what happens after that? How do you work? Does it depend on what's come out of that conversation?
Absolutely. On that, within that conversation, I'll know whether they're thinking of moving, which is definitely need to get in there and visit it, because that's where my value is. And if they've decided to sell, or they're on the market for more than 5 weeks, then there's a consultation, because that's going to involve a lot more. If you're on the market and been on the market for 5 weeks and not sold, there is a 3-step sequence. So I offer a free online photographic review, followed by another consultation to discuss what I've shared and the guidance that you can implement. And then it'll be an understanding then of where you live, the price of your property, what you really want out of it. And then we will discuss a fee to go and to consult with you, which is a tiny percentage and a fraction of what your house is on the market for, because that small investment of me coming then will give you that big reward at the end to achieve the price that you want.
So in terms of the market at the moment, are people mostly moving out and renting, or are they staying put and doing something different with their homes? What are you noticing?
It's a half and half, actually, Mel, to be honest. A lot of people are in that indecision, and do we and can we, with the mortgage rate going up a lot, and to be able to do small affordable improvements in their home. I'm talking to a lot of vendors at the homeowners at the moment that are doing that, to say that they can realise that in 3 to 5 years, then take a view. Also, that future proofs their home, and they can live their investment. And the other side is a lot of people are selling because of the mortgage interest rate, and their mortgages are going to go up. So, and that changes every month, because the mortgage rate, depending on their term of their mortgage. So I've got people that are wanting to move in December because it's going to go up to an incredibly large amount. So they're desperate, not desperate yet, but they're very keen, and they have
Aware that that's approaching.
So
Yeah.
to make the difference now, to have a small investment in improving their home and presenting it to transform the way that purchasers are going to see it, is key for them to sell at the price that's appropriate for that time, so they can get out, rent, consolidate, secure their finances, and then take a view, have breathing space, really.
And of course, we're always mindful of client confidentiality, but I guess we can go back a couple of decades. Any horror stories? Any beautiful moments?
Oh, beautiful moment. I bought a house in Richmond for a family who had 5 children, 2 sets of twins as well. And they couldn't sell their house to buy something quickly. And I just set up, actually, it was in the first year of trading, so back in 2000. And one of the agents with whom I used to work invited me to be in touch with them. We managed to sell their home, and I found another property for them. I was looking at it at the weekend, showed the property, did the deal on a Sunday, and I actually beat a celebrity to get to the deal. They moved in, lived, made some improvements of the home, and then they were right sizing, so the decision came to sell. Wife was going one way, husband going the other way, and their house was full of that broken, disconnected energy. So I have 2 guardian angels that come with me, and we went to the house, we looked at the energy, we moved furniture into the right rooms. They had a beautiful Victorian house. We put the right furniture in the right rooms. We had to buy some bit of furniture so that we could placed it in the reception area, which was colour. It was beautiful. It was a teal sofa. So I bought the sofa, the cushions, the lamps. We dressed and we changed the bedroom. We did everything we needed to do to present it, introduced the agent. The agent's written me a fantastic review, actually, because they sold it. I then sold the items of furniture that we had bought so that we could return it back to so we gave the money back to my clients. And we reached a situation whereby the house was bought for a reason. The family lived in the home. The family had to sell the house for another reason, and it got the right result. So that was, for me, a journey of 20 odd years. So it was lovely that they remembered me. And he still had one of my moving in cards. So that was really lovely to have that compliment. I've had another couple in Woking. Didn't know what to do. She found me because of my concierge services. Gave her a price, went to view their home. I was there for 5.5 hours. It's that unexpected, when you're in the flow, you just get into it. We physically moved bits of furniture around, gave them a lot of suggestions of what to do and how to do. They stayed in their home. They made, we moved the sofa by a foot, and the cat who used to live on the upstairs came downstairs. We moved her study up to the top floor where she had light, and she was creative, could see out into the blue sky and the trees, completely had all the light she needed, like you need light. And so within that time, I then had, after seeing them, I write a report about what could be done and how they could implement, and excuse me. And also they invited me to, with my team, to give them advice on outside as well, and what they could do with their driveway and walls. So in that instance, that was a really nice place to be, because she found me online, invited me, engaged me. We spent a lot of time together, and 5.5 hours didn't feel like 5.5 hours. They were very engaging, very open-minded, happy to move to see what happened. And they chose the placement that I suggested, and it's worked. So that was another good, happy story. Another lady recently in Windsor, been on the market for a long time. And I walked in the house, and 4 hours later, we've moved the whole furniture in the downstairs. And she's lived with it ever since, because it completely changed the presentation of her home.
So decided to stay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's
fascinating, isn't it? What people originally think and then what they go with.
And it's okay to change your mind.
Yeah. Well, on that note, it's been absolutely interesting finding out about your journey and the work that you do, and how psychology, spirituality, alternative methods and energetics all play in to what look like day jobs that people have, and don't realize the many different layers that humans function, and what influences their well-being. And anything that helps improve well-being is what I'm about, what podcast is about. So thanks for coming today, Sally, and it was great to see you again.
Thank you for the invitation, and it's been lovely sharing this with you.